This Day in Sports History. Hey, and welcome back to This Day in Sports History, a member of the Sports History Network. You can find more podcasts and more great info at sportshistorynetwork.com. So I've been spending some time in the past couple of weeks talking about some of the great meetings between Duke and North Carolina on the basketball court. We had the stall ball game. There was the 8 points in 17 seconds comeback. Well, on this day in 2006, it was senior day at Cameron Indoor for JJ Redick and the top-ranked Blue Devils. Things did not go as planned. Duke was 27-2 at this point in the year, and despite a loss on the road to Florida State 3 days before this game, it had mostly been the season folks had anticipated from the Devils, with their two All-Americans of JJ Redick and Sheldon Williams leading the way. For the Heels, it had been a bit of a surprise season. They were the defending national champs, but they'd lost their top 7 scorers from that team, with 5 of those, Sean May, Rashad McCants, Jawad Williams, Raymond Felton, and Marvin Williams, all going to the NBA. Roy Williams had filled a few of those gaps, with freshmen Tyler Hansbrough and Danny Green joining veterans Rayshon Terry and David Noel, and the Heels came into this one with a respectable 20-6 record and a number 13 ranking. And even though this is, one of those series where the cliche you can throw out all the records is pretty spot on, this was supposed to be all Devils in the final home game of the year at Cameron. Duke had won the earlier meeting at the Smith Center, with Redick pouring in 35 in that one, and it looked like this game was going to follow that same script. After a tearful senior night send-off for Redick, he came out firing, hitting his first 4 shots.
Usually gives away some height to who he plays against. Redick, baseline, got it, a three!
The Devils led 13-2 at that point, but Redick went cold the rest of the half. The Heels dug in, they fought back, and it became one of those back-and-forth affairs with Duke up 1 at the half. It stayed that way until midway through the second half, when Bobby Frazier hit back-to-back threes.
Here comes David Noel on the run. Frazier, pull up 3, got it!
Tell you, Frazier, he said as a kid he used to dream about Duke in North Carolina, that ultimately became a Carolina guy.
That opened up a little gap, and the Heels worked it up to an 8-point lead. And then everything seemed to be going North Carolina's way when Hansbrough hit this shot clock buzzer beater.
Help on a basketball.
2 on the shot clock. Hansbrough way out. Got it! A three-pointer!
Are you serious? They're celebrating on Franklin Street, baby, down at Chapel Hill with that one.
Dad is celebrating in the stands.
But Duke still had some fight left. They got scrappy on the boards, and with Redick still on the struggle bus, DeMarcus Nelson stepped up and knocked down a couple of threes.
Nelson, another 3. Got it!
Oh, what a big 3. Get a timeout. North Carolina needs a timeout.
Duke scored 8 points in 51 seconds and brought the deficit to just 3 with a minute 37 left. But they'd never get any closer. The Heels hit their free throws down the stretch and won 83-76, in one of the many memorable games in this long series. Hey, real quick, you've heard me talk a lot about the Sterling Soap Company over the past few months, and if you haven't tried out their soaps, I get it. It's not easy changing up your routine. But let me just say, if you give them a try, I'm nearly 100% certain you will have 0 regrets. They carry not only bar soap, but shave soap, liquid body soap, body lotions, beard balm, lip balm, and a lot more. Plus, there are myriad scents to choose from. Their products are made with natural ingredients and scented oils, and they are committed to being environmentally conscious. And I always get a handwritten note on my packing slip, so I know it's been checked before shipping, and it's a nice little human touch in a world that seems to be going away from that. Give Sterling Soap a try today at sterlingsoap.com. On this day in 1990, it was one of the saddest and most tragic days in college athletics, as Hank Gathers collapsed on the court. It was the semifinals of the West Coast Conference Tournament. Gathers' 21st ranked and top-seeded Loyola Marymount Lions were taking on the number 4 seed Portland. With under 14 minutes to play in the first half, Terrell Lowry lobbed an alley-oop pass to Gathers, who grabbed it and dunked it to give the Lions a 12-point lead. Heading back up court, Gathers paused at the top of the key, getting ready to defend, turned, and then collapsed on the court. Among the 3,000 at the game that day were Gathers' mom and aunt. Gathers was not breathing when doctors got to him on the floor. Immediate attempts to resuscitate him were unsuccessful. He was rushed to a nearby hospital, where he was pronounced dead 2 hours later. Gathers was most certainly on a track to the NBA. A year earlier, he had led the nation in scoring and rebounds, becoming just the second player in NCAA history to do that. This season, it was his teammate and good friend Bo Kimball who was leading the country in scoring. Loyola Marymount played a highly energetic style of up-tempo basketball. Coached by former LA Lakers coach Paul Westhead, the Lions had scored at least 100 points in 25 games that year. The Lakers coach at the time, Pat Riley, had welcomed Gathers to practice, and he actually had plans to catch the Lakers Timberwolves game later that night. This was not the first time that Gathers had collapsed on the court that season, though. On December 9th, in a game against UC Santa Barbara, he collapsed prior to shooting a free throw. He was diagnosed with an irregular heartbeat and given medicine to treat it. He sat out the next 2 games, but he complained that the medicine was impacting his activity on the court, and the dosage was dialed back gradually. Prior to the tournament, his dosage had been dialed back again. The remainder of the conference tournament was canceled, and LMU was given the automatic NCAA tournament bid due to being the top seed of the West Coast Conference tournament. Marymount went on an inspired run in the tournament, advancing to the Elite Eight before losing to the eventual national champions, UNLV. As a touching tribute, Kimball shot his first free throw of every NCAA tournament game left-handed, in memory of the left-handed Gathers and what happened to him on this day in 1990. On this day in 1891, Baseball Hall of Famer Dazzy Vance was born. Sorry, what's that? You've never heard of Dazzy Vance? Well, he is a guy that you should keep in mind if you feel like life has dealt you a bad hand. His story of perseverance in pursuit of his dream is an inspiration to anybody who's ever thought of giving up when the going got rough. Vance spent 10 years in the minor leagues, injured his arm so badly during that time that the doctor who treated him told him to take 2 years off without throwing. He did not listen to that advice. He kept on pitching, and he finally got his chance with the Brooklyn Dodgers in 1922 at the age of 31. He picked up his first win in April and then went on to win 196 more in the next 15 years. He was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1955. Hey, I needed to call a quick timeout to let you know that we're giving away a $50 gift card to Home Field Apparel. Have a favorite college sports team? Of course you do. You're listening to a sports podcast. Well, Home Field Apparel has all the great gear so you can support your team in style. Jerseys, hoodies, hats, and a whole lot more are available in your team's colors and insignias. So go to sportshistorynetwork.com/giveaways for your chance at a $50 gift card to Home Field Apparel. I've also put a link in the show notes. Now, let's get back out there. We've got more of this episode to do. On this day in 1991, Rocco Mediate became the first guy to win a PGA Tour event using a long, anchored putter. Now, we've talked a little about the birth of the long putter and Charlie Owens innovating and using the first anchored putter that he called Slim Jim in tournament play back in 1983. Well, Owens had gone on to win a couple of times on the Champions Tour. It had been a nice balm for some guys on the senior circuit who had not been great putters. Orville Moody was a guy who'd made the switch to the longer putter and saw immediate results. The USGA and Royal and Ancient considered a ban on these long putters in '89, but let them be for a few more years. Well, on this day, Rocco Mediate was playing the final round of the Doral Ryder Open in Miami. Mediate had been near the bottom in putting the year before, ranked 163rd. But after making the switch to the long putter, his stats got a lot better. He used a 49-inch shaft anchored to his sternum to steady his hand and roll in putts. But on this day, he was still chasing Curtis Strange. Rocco rolled in birdie putts on 17 and 18 to force a playoff, and he kept that birdie train going on the first playoff hole, rolling in a 6-footer to end it. Mediate went from 163rd in putting with his short stick to 36th with the Long John Silver. And it would be another 9 years before Paul Azinger would win another PGA Tour event with his belly putter, one we talked about here on The Dish a couple of months ago. The anchored putter would finally be banned in 2016. And time now for today's That's Got Nothing to Do with Sports fun fact. This probably will not come as a huge surprise, but alcohol was invented before the wheel. A clay pot found in China dating back about 9,000 years was discovered to have a beer residue on it, while the wheel did not come around until 3500 BCE. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.